Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're all having a great day and you've got your sketchbook set up for you and you're gonna play along. We're gonna start doing some drawing in these Tuesdays, and then we'll do the watercolor. So I'm just looking through some of these. That's cute. Some of these desk calendars. These are great for finding stuff to paint or draw. And you can get all kinds of stuff. Shoes, all kinds of different things. That's cute. That's a warbler. Maybe we'll do him. Just trying to find some birds that would be something we would see in, there's a chickadee in our area. So you can pick whatever you want to do for your area. There's a sparrow, tree sparrow. Let's do a tree sparrow. They're pretty common all over the place. These are great. So you can usually find these. I've found them at the dollar store. So check dollar stores out, or if you have some calendars with birds in them, or just use Google, whatever. But find a resource, or maybe you have pictures already. Let me see. Just seeing if it's too bright or not. That's a little better. All right. And hey, Dot, good to see you. Let's see. So I did show you last week these books. These are great for people who want to start drawing, or maybe have drawn before, but they're kind of rusty. And this is also a great set of books for your creativity, thinking outside the box type of thing, especially this one here. It gives you 60 exercises for creativity. And last week I said, just go in your kitchen and draw 2 things in your kitchen and see how you did. Don't judge it. Don't show anybody. Just try drawing. So, we did this. I did this. Then there's an exercise in this book. So I drew forks, and let's move this over so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Now, if you drew a fork or a knife or whatever it was, you didn't do your homework. That's all right. Or maybe the neighbor's dog ate it. Yeah. And I don't know if you've read this book, Janet. No, by the way. So the first exercise is, what else could this be used for? So if you were a kid and you just came out of the cave, you've been sheltered your whole life, you're a kid and you've never seen a fork before. Nobody has told you what it is, what it's used for. They just handed you this strange looking thing. What else do you think that would be used for? And so he wants you to draw up a bunch of different things. And this is just really quick, no details, but just to get your imagination going. I think this is a great exercise. Oh, that's kind of pale. I'm going to bring my lighting down a little bit. There. So what else can a fork be used for? So catapult, of course, for your peas that you don't like. So that's what I did, a hand. And it's just very quick sketch. Plant tag for your garden. A stake for a plant. And then, of course, making scribble lines through paint or matte medium or gesso or whatever was Dingle Hopper from The Little Mermaid when she used it to comb her hair. Exactly, Helen. Hi, by the way. Yeah. Let's see. Worm digger upper. Good one. I'm pretty sure I can outrun you, Dorothy. Weapon to kill frogs. Yep. Could be a mermaid's pitchfork. You know, they have those, the king of the mermaids. He holds one of those, I don't know what they're called. Maybe. Would you? A very small child would put it straight in its mouth. That's true, Dot. They probably would. So I want you, whatever you drew, or maybe you didn't draw it yet, whatever you're going to draw, I want you to put it on the next page to it. If you were going to have this in your hand and you didn't know what it was, how else do you think this thing would have been used for? I think this is a great way of stimulating your creativity, thinking outside the box. And this can also go on and on and on and on into a story. So why did you think that would be a catapult for peas? Well, then there's a story behind that right there. And you could start making all kinds of drawings for this. And this is how I want to get you guys going, is to use your creativity so you can make your own stories of your day. So draw your day. This was the other book. I've shown this before. Now she uses a lot of writing, but that's fine too. You can always put writing in it. And it's not always going to be something that makes sense to somebody else, but it'll make sense to you. So she went to the grocery store. She puts a lot of dates. Here's one of her days. So she did a lot of drawing, but she uses the sun or rain and clouds, that type of thing, to state what the weather was like. It was raining, so something very simple. Rain boots or snow boots because it's snowing out. That could represent snow. And she was spent the day outside, it looks like, by the river. She was painting on her easel. She saw a small frog and ferns. So in order to get to that point of doing this type of thing in your sketchbook, you need to teach yourself how to think outside the box. And these will help you. They may seem really childish and silly. And that's the good thing about it, because that's how we used to think. We were always trying to make up stories and imagine things. Oh, imagine if this did that. Or remember when you used to do that? And we lost that. So by doing this, we're teaching ourselves how to draw an object and its use. So I want you to save a page. You don't have to do it every time, but save a page beside the drawing that you do. Now, I didn't draw the fork on this book, but the next subject that you draw, I want you to leave the next page beside it and write the same thing. What else can a blank be used for? And then draw at least 3 to 5 things, that whatever will fit on your page. Speak for yourself, Miss Adult Person. What? So I know, and I do hear you guys say at Dee Dee's and at Janet's and Lena's, oh, I have no imagination. Yes, you do. You've just buried that child inside of you a little bit, and it needs to come up again. So you're able to use your imagination again and do all these creative exercises, and it'll get you going. We lost our immature. Exactly, Janet. We need to get that back. So today, all morning, I've been working in the yard, trying to get my pond re-going. So I have a leak in it somewhere, and that's a pain in the butt to find. But I saw lots of birds just waiting on the trees and on the rocks around me for me to start that waterfall so they can go take a bath. It was so cute. So I thought, I'm going to draw a bird. So today's lesson is going to be birds. Now, we're going to do it, and this is a great book also. And of course, it starts off with like, let's scribble. And this is just about loosening up. And in nature, there's so many different types of line that you could use. There's hard, stiff lines. There's very flowy lines. There's texture, that type of thing. I talk in depth about this in my other videos, drawing lessons. I can't remember what I called it. If I can find it, I will put it down below so you can look at those instead of me going in depth with this. Scribble art was another one I did, and scribble lines, they mean something. They have emotion. They have strength or weakness, All the birds at Kathy's house are skinny now. And then scribble shapes, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to start here. So when you're drawing, everything has a bunch of shapes. And that's the easiest way to start a drawing. So I'm going to use this picture of this sparrow here. And let's see, I'm going to prop it up a little so it's not so there. And if you have a eraser, bring it out. I believe in erasing. There's nothing more frustrating to someone that's starting out to draw when they can't erase. They give up. So I believe in erasing. I still erase. If I don't like something, I'm going to erase it. I think it's silly to make that rule. Like, why? Why make things tougher? I don't get it. I would use a HB pencil. So usually your school pencils are an HB 2. You'll see that. And then, let's see. Or if you have a mechanical pencils, they're great too, because then you don't have to sharpen. They're usually HB also. So that's what I'll use. And I have a eraser that's kneadable. They're great. Or I have these, and that's the Tough Stuff elastic or eraser stick. You can get these in another size too. This is Papermate. There's also Mono, and they have the really, really small ones. They're great for fine details. Or you can just use your white latex erasers. I don't think I have one down here. I've seen them at the dollar store. You can get them fairly cheap. So with this, let me just put this over here. With this little bird here, I think I will put this in. I think this is a seed head of some sort. And I'm looking at it, and it's going to be, if you want to do it the same size as the picture, then that's fine. But if you want to make it bigger, then you have to remember there's just a small amount of space above the head. So you got to have that amount of space on your page. So kind of put a little line where you want to stop the head. You can erase it later. And also he's started on a third. So when you divide these into thirds, so it's like a tic-tac-toe board, he's right here on 1/3. So you'll know that you can put the same tic-tac-toe board on your paper here. So I'll just put it down here. Okay, so if I had tic-tac board like this, roughly, and then roughly put one down in your, now it's going to be a little different because my paper's a little bit bigger. So I know he starts right here. So where they cross, that's just below his head. So what I'm looking at is shapes. So this here, his body, is kind of an egg shape. And it's on a tilt. And it just goes past that center line here. So right about here. Is this still too, I think I have to lower my light again. There, I think you can see that now. I'll bring you guys in a little bit too. It's hard getting the right light. Is that better? Now these lines are light, but I'll make it a little bit darker. So it's on a tilt, and the bottom of his by his tail there is not too far from that one line, and it's about halfway down. So it's about right here. So I know that it'll probably stop about there. All right, so that gives you a way of looking at the size that you want to put in. Because a lot of times when you're first drawing, you'll start off, say, with the head, and you're going to do the whole body, and you find out that you can't put the legs in, or the feet will be missing because you made it too big. So this way, you're able to look at the size that's going to fit on your page. So I know that it's on a tilt now. And he has, it's the big part of the egg on the top part by his shoulders. And then it just very similar like that. So there's my egg shape. His little head here can be a round circle. Okay, so it kind of sits right here. So I'm just going to make, let's see, his eye is almost in center, so it is almost centered. And if I look at how much the head is compared to halfway down, it's almost the same size. So this amount is about right there. And his eye is centered, and it's basically a round circle, roughly. Okay. And his tail's fairly long, and it starts kind of a rectangle, and it's on a bit of a slant, like that. And that's all you need to start with your drawing. And then sit back, take a look at it. Is it big enough? I think this needs to be out a little more. Needs to be a little fatter. And then I'm looking at his head. I think his head is okay. And then the neck, where it attaches to the back, then you can put those lines in. So he's got a fairly puffy under the chin. Now his legs are almost center, but not quite. It's about right there. And they come down to that line there. Kind of like this. And his other little toes right around here. Okay, I don't see the other one, but, and then that attaches. Yeah, I erase a lot. So this is how we start. So then we can start looking at more of the details. So his wing. His wing's kind of like a teardrop. And it goes right to the tail. So I know that this needs to come up. And then you can take it up like that. And then his beak, his eye is about center. So it's just kind of down a little bit. So here's the center. And then we can take inside this part. And then it sticks out to a point. It's kind of curved on the bottom. And then it goes like that. Okay, so then you can take your eraser, erase the lines you don't want. Because we know where his head and everything goes now. So you can erase those lines that helped you decide where to put things. Okay. So we have the base of our little sparrow. So the eye, you can see that the eye just past the center point. So it's about right here. And they have fairly round eyes. There is a little bit of a shape to it though, kind of like a fat almond. It's about the width or the height of his top part of the beak, if you want to really look at it. Okay, so we have that, and now we can take a look at these feathers, how the feathers are almost halfway down. They start to go like that. And these are all separate. You can count them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At least 7. 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And then they get smaller as they go. Okay, so just there's, I don't know what these feathers are called. You could get technical if you want. And then here, just follow the lines. Look at the lines. How are they falling? If you can see here, there's a little, you can just see the little bit of the feather of the other wing. Most of this will be paint. And then, let's see, right here, thin lines. There's a whole bunch of them. I didn't count them though, but that's fine. Okay. And then this here, we don't see this. It's all about the feathers, how the feathers are laying. They're kind of fluffy. right in here. It goes around up to his mouth. And then in here, they're kind of fluffy on the outside here. So then there's, looks like more fluff overlapping the wing. We have some definite line. I think this is just a bit too wide. So I'll erase it. And there's definite lines. It goes into the body a little bit. And then there's, let's see, I think that goes down a little. And then there's like that underneath. Hey, Lori, Amber, Cindy. Good to see you all. So take a look at it. Okay, this here can be erased because I don't need that anymore. And he's pretty fluffy. It's got fluff coming over his leg here. And he's kind of fluffy on the underside too. Must be cold out. Okay. So does he look right? Just take a look at it. Is it looking like a sparrow to you? I think it looks pretty good. Now you can either put in the line work where there's different feather colors. If you're doing it in watercolor, I usually do if there's big sections. Or you could just paint, especially in watercolor. It's easy to just put it in as you go light to dark. So this line here is around the little eye here. Goes to the just a little bit back here. It's a little wider. Like that. And there's a little line in here. And a little bit of dark color there. I'm just putting more or less the dark colors. Kind of looks like he's got a mohawk. Okay. That's basically what I want. So I can erase some of this. We don't need all of those lines. Let's see his beak. I'm gonna make it a little, I had a bit of a curve to it, and it's not really curved. Very straight. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Maybe the back's a little bit, where did I just put it? Oh. Back is a little bit straighter. Not much of a curve to it. It's a little bit straighter there. Okay. think that's good. So the flowers, I know they're kind of, I think it's a seed head of some sort. I don't know what kind. So you can just draw in a few details, and then you'll know that you're going to be putting a bunch of dots, or you could just do a wash actually. And I'm just going to make a little shape. So here's the shapes again, but I know it's got funny little seeds on it. So here's some twigs I see in there. And then more shapes overlapping each other. So I'm just looking at the shapes. Okay. And then over here, more shape. It's not going to be exactly the same, but depends how much detail you want. All right. I'm grateful for the way you encourage us to start simple and just run with our ideas. I bought a sketchbook a month ago and have been too scared to draw it. Oh, well, here's your chance. Just play along. Don't show it to anybody. That's the main thing. Do not show it to anybody until you have enough confidence in your drawing ability. Because it doesn't take much for you to lose that confidence. Okay, so fine. This is a fairly simple bird. So just find, you don't have to do birds either. You find something, a coffee cup. If you want to start out simple, do your coffee cup. Simple shapes. Do a thing of glue or paint, a pencil, a pen. A squirt container. Shapes. All right, so here's what I have. Now it's not shaded or highly detailed in any way. This is for watercolor right now. And you don't need a whole lot of detail when you're doing kind of urban style sketches. It can be very simple. It's all more about the paint afterwards. I will, if you want, get into more detailed drawing if you want. Shading and textures, but let's get your confidence level built first. And then we'll venture on to more complex stuff. Okay, so there's what we have to start off with. Now I'm going to paint mine with watercolor. If you have colored pencil, you could do that too. Or if you don't have watercolor, but you like the look of watercolor, you could also use a watered down acrylic. Now, mind you, you're not going to get your blooms and water going into it, especially in a sketchbook paper, but it will give you a start. See if that's what you want to do. I don't want you going out and spending money on something you've decided, no, it's not for me. Yeah, I did a basic rectangles. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I guess it is a few years back, maybe 3. I'll have to see if I can find it, and I'll link it down below after the stream's done. So we'll stick to these colors that are on the bird here itself. And it's kind of grays and sepia, ochres, sienna color, that type of thing. So I'm going to clean my palette off. And when you're starting out with watercolor too, because you're not used to how watercolor works, I would suggest keeping a clean palette until you learn how watercolor flows and works, because it could get very aggravating to get something on your brush you didn't want. All right, so I have, this is a number 8 silver black velvet. These are a fairly inexpensive brush, great for beginners. They usually keep a fairly decent point. You can just flick it and it'll go to a point. And they last for quite a while, and they're not that high priced. They hold just the right amount of water if you want to try those out, if you're looking for a brush. All right, so I always say for beginners, go from light to dark, especially in watercolor. So we have here pretty well a whole lot of this bird is done in kind of a soft, warm gray. So I'm going to do, I don't have a gray in watercolor, so I'm going to make a gray. So I'll bring my palette here so you can see what I'm doing. There. Okay. So what I normally do is take a ultramarine. This one happens to be French ultramarine, so it's a little lighter than your regular ultramarine. So take some of that, put it in this section. Get a paper towel. And then you want to get some burnt umber or raw umber. I have burnt here, and this will turn to a nice brown depending on how much you put in of one color. And then if you add a little more blue to that, it kind of goes into this gray shade. It's actually a really nice color. Then add some water to your brush. Pick up some of that and just go over your entire bird with that gray. And this is wet into dry painting. I'm even going to go into the peak. Down the tail. You don't want big puddles of water on your paper. So just make sure you have the right amount of water on your brush. You don't want pools of water, but you don't want it dry either. And that's something you have to learn when you get into watercolor, is the right consistency of paint versus water. I'm going to go outside my lines a little bit because I know that it's kind of fuzzy, fluffy. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a burnt sienna. It's got a little bit of a red tinge to it. This is going to be great for the dark colors and the in-betweens, actually. So this right here, these dark sections would be the burnt sienna. But we're going to try and do some in here. It's got a little bit of kind of a goldy color. So we could use actually raw sienna. It's lighter and a little more on the yellow side. So I have quite a bit of water on my brush. So I want a light wash right in here. It goes right along the wing. And then flick it into the wing right there. And it goes just kind of down the side of the bird. And I'm just small strokes because I want a little bit of unevenness. I don't want to have the bird look like it's got a straight line of color, because they don't. They got fuzz. Right in here. He actually has a little bit in his cheek too. Okay. Yeah, you love it. Yeah, they're one of a lot of people use them, I think. They're a great brush. And I think because they have such a great point on them. Okay, I'm going to actually take some of that burnt sienna, so it's a little more reddish color. And while this is still wet here, I'm going to put some of those areas in. And I'm just using the tip of my brush to do these areas and just dabbing basically. I don't want it too, I don't want it to run, because these lines here are very definite in the bird. So you want to keep those fairly sharp looking. And along his head, there's a little mohawk here. I can put that in. And just kind of strokes on the top part. It doesn't go right to the top. It's kind of patchy, I guess you could say. And a little bit right here. You just have to pay attention to the colors. Look at the shapes that you're drawing. So again, it's all about shape. That's with drawing and painting. All right, so those are actually dark, but this here has a little bit of that color in the wing. I'm going to probably take some white gouache and do the really highlight areas of the white. There is a bit of white on the bird. So a little bit more intense. So this is still wet, but that's fine. I'm just adding a little bit more pigment to my brush so I can darken areas. There's a little bit in here. A little darker in there. Now I'm going to take a little bit of clean water on my brush, and I'm just going to wet underneath here just a little bit. There's some of that sienna color, but it's kind of blurred out kind of look. So I don't want it to be a definite line. So if I just go in and tap some of this, that's all I'll need. Just here and there. Okay. All right. Now, that burnt umber, we'll take some of that. And I'm going to put some of that. It's just a bit of real dark in those areas where it's a little bit darker, almost dark brown, but it's not quite. Bit in here. Okay, so let's dry it. Now remember, I'm not working on watercolor paper, so I'll have to do a little bit more drying than you would if you're working on the watercolor paper. You find them pricey? I found them not too bad. Maybe they've gone up in price. Maybe to get all of them, yeah, but they are worth it. I haven't bought them in a while, so. Could be they've gone up like everything else. Okay, let's. So I'm going to just wet a few areas here. I just kind of want a little bit of, see how the there's patches that are a little bit darker? And I'm just putting burnt umber in there, just a little bit. on that wet. And it'll seep in. Here the wing would be darker. All right. Now we have that color we made up with the umber and ultramarine. Now we can go in and use a little bit of that and just along the edge. Let's put a few little dabs in along the back of his leg there. It's a little darker. Just some dabs. And the back of his neck is a little bit more grayish looking. A little darker in there and on the top part of his head. Some gray in there. Watch the way the feathers are running too. And then you take your brush, wet brush, and just go over it and wet it. And it'll kind of be blotchy looking then. You can always remove a little bit there. A little lighter there. And let's try wetting this area here. A little bit of that color. Under his chin. I'm just going to do his tail. There's a line of white in there, but there's quite a bit of gray. And the top of his beak is a dark grayish color also. So you can put that in. Just using the tip of my brush. And just a little bit on the very bottom of that. And then kind of a yellow. It's not quite the same as the raw sienna. It's a little bit more on the yellow. So I'm going to add a little bit of, what is it? Indian yellow to that sienna just to brighten it up a little bit. And that's for the bottom of his beak. All right, and his legs are kind of the raw sienna color, a little bit darker, but we'll put that on there. They actually go more into an umber color on the toes. So let's put some dark in there. It's umber on his toes. and a bit down the back side of his leg. Three. I have three. They were reasonable. Yeah. You bought a few. Okay. Let's make a dark color again for the eye. Need a little more blue, a little more. Just paint that eye in. It's fairly dark. You just see the highlight. And the top of the beak, a little bit darker. And I'm going to put a little bit on the back here and on his toes. I think they need to be dark. Okay. Okay, so if you want, I'm going to use pen for the rest of the detailing. The flowers or seed pods or whatever they are, I'm pretty sure they're seed pods. They're more or less the same color. So I'm going to take just kind of blob and mix your color up. So maybe a little bit of the sienna, change them up a little. Darker on the bottom. And then we can use pen to add the shapes of the seed pods. And just mixing it up. A little bit more of that dark color. So see there's difference in the sienna. It's just a mix of all those colors that we've been using, basically. Just dabbing them in. There. Peg leg. All right. So now we'll dry that up. That's good. Good one, Devin. All right, now make sure your paper is really, really good and dry. Let's see if this is dark. Well, it's not bad. It's a 0.5. What other color do I have? I'm going, I was thinking of using the Unipin Fine Line. This is a sepia color. This is fairly dark. So I'll put those away for a little bit. You want me to bring you guys in now so you can see what I'm doing? All right. So when you're doing the line work, don't outline. Basically, think of how that feather is. It's soft. It doesn't stop at the end with a big blob. So I see that there's a little bit of darker areas, and that's what I'm looking for, is these darker areas here. And I'll just put a few in. It doesn't have to be a lot. And I know that the feathers are going in this direction or down this way, and they're not straight lines. They've got a little bit of a curve to them. So you have to kind of think that, and it's a light touch. I'm barely touching the paper. If you have a smaller fine liner, like a 1 or 3, that would be good too. A little bit of a line there. I'm going to outline his eye a little bit to get the shape. And a little bit more color in here. Kind of speckle the top a little bit of his beak. And then right in here, you can put some very light lines in for the feathers, how they would be laying. So they kind of rotate around his eye a little bit. Go to the back of his head. I think they kind of stick out. Goes down his neck a little bit. just a few on the top. And there's a few that kind of stick out. Kind of like doing whiskers, actually. And then along the edge here where the and just tapping. Now you could also use your colored pencils to do this if you wanted to. And just showing that it's fuzzy. Okay, so there is a definite pattern on his wing. So there's some dark areas and then there's white on the tips. So I'm just putting these dark areas in right now. Like that. And then there's this dark area here. And I'm just going to go kind of on a diagonal. Let's follow that line up where you think it goes. It's a little thicker here and there. Just a little bit more dark in here. And then these lines are fairly dark. Now this isn't a, what do you call it? Scientific drawing of any kind. It's just to show what I saw in my garden. If you're looking for really detailed work, there's a ton of really fantastic artists out there, like Billy Scholl, is it? From England. And they're like botanical artists. And with that, you really have to learn how to draw. So it's practice, depending on what you want to do. For me, I just like doing this type of thing. Okay, there's a line right there. Just so that I can document, basically. That's what I like to do. A bit darker there. And then they have all these little lines here. Let's see. few. Probably won't be exact what I'm seeing here, but if you want to take the time and put in the exact shapes and areas, then that's great. Me, no. I just like to play. All right. Now I can take a little bit of gouache. Where did I put that? Let's see. I'm just going to use a little bit of gouache, white gouache. This is the Winsor Newton. And I don't use my watercolor brushes when I use gouache because it can wreck your... And I want it fairly thick consistency. And I'm just going to put in some of these white areas in the... They will start to go into the watercolor paint that you do have in there. So it won't be white. It will kind of fade in, which is okay. There's a little bit right in here. Looks like that. There's a one there. And then there's some on the tail. And a little bit on the leg for the shine. Maybe we'll put that in while I'm here. Just a few little specks on the toes. That's all you need. And a little dot in the eye. All right. Now I can take some of that white and mix a little bit of the sienna color in it. So let's see. A little bit of sienna color in there. And then I can just dot. I wonder if that's going to be dark enough. Let's see, I think I might have... Did I have sienna? No, but I have yellow. Nope, that's not going to be it. Okay, just have to make up a little bit more sienna. And add it to the white. And I'm just going to dot here and there. Actually, it's going to be more yellow. Okay, so we'll add a bit of yellow to that, I think. It's a little bit of a different color. Just make sure you rinse your brush before you dip into your paint. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Well, it's not really going on the way I want, but what I can do is get more of the white and have it stronger, and then go over it with a wash. So I'm going to take a brush and just put a bunch of polka dots, actually. Let's see, is that one? That'll do. So I dipped my brush in the wash, and then I'm just going to see if I can make some dots here and there. Don't have to have a lot, but I want to show that they're kind of seed heads. This thing, if you wanted to do it just exactly the way it is, you could, but it's going to take you a while. There's a lot of detail in there, so I leave it up to you. This is what you can do. Is it's more of a, what do you call it? There was a, we used to say it's a hint of, usually your eye will recognize it and fill in the blanks. Could take probably a Q-tip would do too. Probably better. I don't think I have any down here. Might. Should go look. But this is what you do in your sketchbook, guys. Try things. See what works. See if I got a Q-tip. Essence, that's it. Thank you, Devin. I knew it was something. Just couldn't get the word out. Oh, there's those Q-tips. I know I have them somewhere. Oh, here they are. I knew I had some. Here, Q-tip. Yeah. Oh, yes. That's much better. Q-tip, people. Much better. I know there's an actual tool for the decorative painting people. A little sponge on this stick. Can't remember what they called it, but it worked great for berries and stuff. You probably know what I'm talking about, Lori. They were great. I loved it. Leave some areas open a little more. Fingertip works too. Daughter, that. Yeah, daughter. Okay, let's dry that. And then we can go in with different colors of paint. So then you can go in with your paintbrush. Where did I put it? And put colors in where you want. So that sienna shade and or maybe the Indian yellow might look kind of cool. Let's try that. See what we get. So that looks a little more like the seed pod. And then you can go back in and put shading in and colors, umbers, more of the, looks like a raw sienna, but with a little bit of orange might work. Make them a little brighter. This is Indian yellow I'm just putting over top, but it works. Oh, yeah. Not even in. Sorry, guys. I'm zoomed in here and keep forgetting. Okay, that. You told me about those. Yeah, jealous. Awesome, Dot. Okay, so we'll dry that up. Yeah, you could. It's your sketchbook. It doesn't have to be all watercolor. We're mixed media artists, so like use what you got. That's what I believe. And if something is going to make it easier, use it. That's why I always use colored pencils, markers. I do use acrylic paint marker. If it's going to make it easier, I can't see why you shouldn't use it. Okay, so let's put some of these sticks or whatever they are. I'm not sure what kind of plant this is. Could be a weed for all I know. But it does have a lot of twiggy stuff in there. And I might even just do a few in here, in between these. Maybe they've got, you do see little bits and pieces here and there. So we can put those in too. Always looks more interesting too when you do that. Just add, kind of like trees when you're doing trees. We'll do trees also. Show you more believable trees. Okay. Back and forth with the pen and the watercolor or whatever you're using. Just have fun with it. Experiment in your book. Okay, so we got that there, and it's paint marker. I'm gonna put a little bit of a highlight on his. I think this one will work. On his leg. I don't know if that's. Just had to be a little bit more, I think. That dot. A little bit lighter, brighter. Okay. And now we can do a little more on his. Now you could just go with a pen and put some dark marks around some of these circles just to give them a little bit of shadow. You could also take your paintbrush or whatever color pencil and put in some shadows. There's some large shadow areas there. Just have fun with it. It's kind of like doodling when you're at this point. And this is how you learn different ways of doing things, by playing in your sketchbook or your journal, whatever it is you're using. Don't use it like it's precious. That's your experiment time. That's where you would, well, that's where artists try things before they make a big painting. They're not going to instantly go to a canvas and try something. They're going to play in their journal. And that's what basically journals were meant for. So don't make it this special book you can't mess up. Everything's got to be beautiful. Okay, so let's do some more darker areas. So I'm going to make a little bit more of that dark color up. Nice and dark. And see how we have some fairly dark areas under there. So just dab some of those. You can add more here and there. Just play with it. Think about the shape. It's got form to it, so the shadow would be cast because of the size of the form on the bottom. Okay. Then I could take kind of a yellowish, do the stems in here a little bit. It's a little thicker in the bottom here. That. Okay, I'll bring it out a little bit. Oh. There. Yeah, he's not bad. He could be a little fluffier. Let's see. And dry it. All right, and then a little bit. That. And take this brush. Tone this down a little bit. A little bit of gouache there. A little bit of more I lost that fluffiness in there. Let's put that back. Thanks, Devin. right. So let that dry and then let's see how it looks. That's the gouache over top. Okay. Now you could still take a marker or pen, whatever you're using, and just make some even darker areas, because that's the key, is contrast. You need those lights and real darks. If you don't have them, you lose that contrast that you need. So that's what catches your eye, is the contrast. A lot of times too, what I'll do is I'll draw something and then put it away. Next day or next week, I'll come back to it and take another look at it and see what I need. Sometimes you're not sure. There's something you need to do to it, but you're just not sure what it is. So that's when you need to stop, put it away. There's no point in doing it if you're frustrated. So that's no fun. And I'm all about doing this for relaxation and just have some fun with it. Don't be so serious with it. It's a hobby, unless you're planning on being a painter or whatever and selling. There. So I think it looks pretty good. I'm happy with the little bird. So there's the little sparrow. He's a bit tilted. Maybe he's up a little bit more than this guy. Should have been forward a little bit, but I think he looks pretty good. So find a picture that isn't too complicated and see if you can draw a bird. Remember, shapes first. So go back and look at how I looked at the shapes, and keep drawing them until you feel comfortable with it. All right. So I will let you guys go, and I hope you also draw something simple, like I did the fork. So what else could you possibly use that object that you drew, and try to draw what they would be used for? So very simple drawing, nothing major. And you just work at it, Lori. Um, your stuff never comes out hardly at all perfect the first time. It's always draw once, twice, 3 times, dozen times, depending on what you're doing. If you love it enough, and I don't look at it as a failure. I look at it as a challenge. I know I can do this, and you pay attention more to what you're seeing, and you try and judge the shapes and the sizes. What's the relevance of the shape to the body? You have to really pay attention to all the surrounding areas that you're drawing. Do you ever pick your flowers and draw them from life? Yeah, once, not that often, but yeah, I have. We can do some of those if you want. I did a few last year. It's just hard to show them on screen when you're doing it. You know what I mean? What I'm seeing isn't what you're seeing. So the camera's face is pointed down, but I'm looking across. So for you to see what I'm seeing, it's hard to film that. So no, once in a while I'll lay a flower down, but we can try that if you want, Dot. All right, so I'll let you guys go, and you have a fantastic rest of the week. We'll see you Thursday, and we'll be finishing this lady up here. And we should be able to finish it this Thursday. So hope to see you there. That'll be Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern p.m. All right. Thanks. We'll see you later. Have a good one, everyone.